Martinique. My name is Martinique Brown. If this is your first time tuning in the show, thank you so much for watching the show. I'm so excited today to have Dan Persechini on the show today. He is a financial wellness expert, and he's going to talk to us more about how we can just get in shape financially and what his services can really do to help you. Before we get started, make sure that you share this video now because we want people to know more about Dan and his services, Dan Persechini Coaching and Consulting. Also, make sure that you follow me on my Instagram, which is MartiniqueTheStoryteller. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, what are you waiting for? It's also MartiniqueTheStoryteller. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Make sure that you post your comments and your questions in the comment field. This is how we can make the show so much more interactive. Dan, first of all, thank you for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
You are welcome. So we're going to get started. My first question to you is, so what is financial wellness and why is it important?
So for me, financial wellness, I think, has become a little bit of a buzzword in the industry right now. And for me, it's just feeling better about your overall financial situation. Financial stress has a lot of implications in people's lives. It can impact relationships, it can impact careers, it can impact work and productivity, and it has a significant impact on health as well. Mm-hmm. So for me, financial wellness is just feeling better and more comfortable about your overall financial picture and how you're moving forward.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So Dan, how did you become interested in becoming a financial wellness expert?
So for me, I've been a finance professional in the corporate world for 34 years. Mm-hmm. So I had a lot of finance experience, done a lot of different financial things around planning, around strategic planning, around budgeting, around forecasting. So I've had a background and a career in finance. The end of last year, 2017, I had an opportunity to leave my corporate job. They offered early retirement, and so I looked to get into financial wellness. Okay. The reason financial wellness was important to me, my mother had passed away almost 3 years ago now. Mm-hmm. And when she passed away, I became the executor of her estate. Okay. And as the executor, I was going through all her finances and understanding her financial decisions. And I think I realized that she was making a lot of decisions that not necessarily horrible, but she could have been doing better. She could have been making a lot better decisions. And I think looking back on it, some of those financial issues for her was also impacting her health. So that really kind of opened my eyes around financial literacy and wellness as an important factor. Mm-hmm. I think I've always taken for granted as a finance professional that people had kind of a basic understanding and had control over their finances, but the more and more I looked at it, the more and more I realized that there was a gap and a need out there in this space, and so that's what kind of launched me on this journey.
That's good. So I know that you're talking about, that it can affect our health. What are some of the ways that you've seen it affect individuals' health?
So one of the biggest ways it affects people's health is depression. So they feel that they get in a cycle where they can't get ahead. They're living paycheck to paycheck, and they're just overwhelmed with how we're going to get through and be able to kind of make any kind of long-term financial goals come to fruition. So I think depression is a big piece of it, and that depression can have impacts physically on, it can manifest itself as backaches or headaches or other health-related issues. So from a health perspective, having that stress can have implications on a lot of different health aspects of your life.
Definitely. And you know what? I was also thinking about just being deprived of sleep, because if you're constantly worried about your finances, then you really just can't have a restful night. And so I know that having a solid 7 to 8 hours of sleep is really beneficial to your health as well. And like you said, people just have restless nights, and and it really just affects your health as well as the next day that you're going into and things like that.
Yeah, and so it's interesting. The more and more kind of I research and look at this, one of the biggest impacts of health issues is stress related. So and just having the weight of being stressed on your body, on your mind, whether it's lack of sleep or whatever it is, causes health issues. And one of the number one reasons for stress is financial stress. So there's a lot of connections.
Definitely. And we know that that's also like one of the main reasons a lot of couples get divorced,
Yep.
because of their finances.
Yep.
Were you kind of surprised though, after you found out more about your mom's finances? Since you've been in this industry for so long, were you surprised that she did not come to you?
I yes and no, right? I would have, looking back on it, my father passed away at 55. So my
Okay.
mother was on her own for 25 years. Very proud woman. Would never ask for help.
Yeah.
So when you asked the question, am I surprised she didn't come to me? I think she was too proud to ask for help. Right? Do I wish she had been a little bit more open and asked? Yes. And could I have been a little bit more proactive there? Probably. So there's a lot of different factors when you kind of look back and think about that situation.
Yeah, and I think that that's something also to be mindful of. The individuals that you're working with, maybe they can't, or they don't want to go to a family member that may be in that profession. But I think that that's good to be able to come to somebody and utilize their service, just so because you are a stranger to them, but you still built that relationship with them to help them with their finances. But just having that separation from family member and client, those two different spectrums of a relationship, I think is really helpful, because I know that you're not somebody that's going to go tell my brother Joe, what my financial issues are. So I think that that's also helpful as well, in utilizing a service like yours.
Yeah, and I think I've one of the things that I've realized is a big need is for young adults, especially young adults who are just coming out of college and are now on their own and living on their own. They haven't had this type of education around basic financial literacy and personal finance as part of their curriculum. And they don't want to go to their parents to ask for help, right? And so from my perspective, and I've had a few younger clients that working with them and just kind of helping them understand, hey, how do I think about a budget? How do I think about a plan? And that's one of the reasons also that why I'm teaching. I'm teaching a college course around financial literacy and personal finance at Stonehill College starting this year.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So is that going to be your first time teaching at that college?
Yes. So I graduated from Stonehill years ago. You won't say how long ago. And I had met with the dean of the business school back in the spring of last year. They said they've been looking to do something in this space, that there's been a need. So I put together an outline for a course, which got approved by the curriculum committee, and I'm offering it for the first time in spring.
That's excellent. That's really good.
I also met with Eaton College last week, and they want to bring me in to do some workshops for their students.
That's good.
Yeah, it's too late for them to get a course in for this semester, but maybe for next semester.
So let me ask you something. Just as a financial wellness expert, do you feel that our schooling system, high school level, do you feel that they teach high schooler things that they need to know about finances, or do you feel that it's not until they get into college where they do learn a little bit more about finances?
So I think there's starting to be an awareness of the need. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think where we need to be for an offering yet. So look, one of the places I started before I retired, I ran the financial literacy pilot for, for for Fidelity the last year I was there
Mm-hmm.
in the Smithfield region. And as part of that, I did some education for high school economics classes. Yeah, I'm on the board of Bishop Fee, and we did some education for those. So that I think there's an awareness that there's a need. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think they've developed kind of a real curriculum yet at the high school level.
Okay.
Talking with the principal there, you know, it's not only kind of the finance issues, it's life skills. I think there's, as we think about kind of our young adults, high school students, and colleges, there's been kind of a lack, at least in my opinion, of focus on life skills, and
Mm-hmm.
finance, and understanding your finances is one piece of that.
Okay. So now, since you have been on a board like that, do you know of any resources that parents could purchase to help their high schoolers just have a better understanding of like those life skills dealing with their finances? And if you think about it later on in the show, then you go ahead and tell me. But
They can hire me.
I know that's right. There we go.
No, so that's the issue. So there's tons of resources out there. Being
Mm-hmm.
able to kind of filter through it and understand what's right for you, it becomes a challenge like anything else, right? So there are lots of, and when I do education at companies, I talk about resources where they can go to get budgeting tools. I talk about resources where they can learn more about credit, where they can get calculator tools. So there are a lot of resources out there, and I do think there are some programs that are coming together that are trying to be a little bit more holistic.
Okay.
But in my opinion, they're not there yet.
I understand. Okay. So, can you tell me a little bit more about the people and businesses who utilize your consulting and coaching services?
Okay. So my end goal is to help individuals feel better about their financial situation, right, and reduce financial stress. The
Mm-hmm.
way I do it through companies is that I do it through kind of their wellness programs, financial wellness being a piece of that. So what I'll do is I'll go in and I will educate employees in workshops or sessions around budgeting, around credit, around debt, around investing, around retirement. I have kind of a 3 module program that I offer to companies,
Mm-hmm.
and I connect mostly with the HR folks at those companies. So the benefits person around providing that benefit to the company. And more you see kind of results and stats about employees being financially stressed, one of the number one reasons for their stress. And from a company perspective, it has productivity issues for an employee. It has, they tend to have more absences. They tend to make decisions
Mm-hmm.
around payday loans and borrowing against their 401k.
Yeah.
So it's in a company's interest to kind of think about the financial wellness implications for their employees. And there's the health piece of it as well too. I think there was a study I was looking at a couple of weeks ago that employees that are financially stressed also tend to have a higher a health cost outlay as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of different reasons companies are becoming more and more interested in financial wellness as a benefit for their employees.
Yeah. But you know what? The thing is, I rarely hear about companies offering a service like that. And I guess I just never thought of the connection in the health, aspect of it, how it does affect your health. And I wonder why they never put the two together.
Well, I think they're starting to, and I think and there's in the research that I've looked at, a lot more companies have this on their radar. They just haven't implemented anything.
Is it because they don't know how to implement it, or they don't know who to go to implement it?
I think it's a little bit of both. And one of the difficult issues is that you implement a program like this, it's hard to measure the success, right? So a lot of company cultures are, okay, if I'm going to implement something, I want to be able to measure it and be able to see a return on that investment. So if they're paying me to come in, how do I make sure that what I'm investing is getting the return and the outcome I need? And so far that has been difficult to kind of put together that correlation.
So how would you answer that question for somebody that's in a company that does not have this type of benefit for their employees right now?
So, I think it would be hard. It's hard to come up with some specific measures, but over the long term, you should be able to measure it a little bit around employee engagement, right? So at Fidelity, I was actually responsible for running the employee engagement finance function for the asset management group that I was with, and that is something you can measure, right? So if you are giving your employees some additional benefits that are making them feel more satisfied and they're more engaged, they tend to be the more productive employees. So that's one way you can potentially measure it, as to how engaged. There's a lot of surveys out there that measure employee engagement. I think the other piece is, around kind of, like I said, some of it may be around, what's going on. So our employees borrowing against their 401k less, our employees' absences going down over time, and turnover too. And again, these can't be. You're not going to get one-to-one correlations, but putting these programs in place should have a positive impact on a lot of different things over time.
But I would also think that not so much. I know that they want to measure the success of it, but I think that it just offers a peace of mind. When you do have a resource that you can come to, not so much when I'm reacting to my finances, going south, but something that I can utilize and be proactive with, And so I think that company leaders should really take that into consideration as well.
And it's an evolution too, right? So where I'm working now, doing a lot of consulting with Titleist. So they have pretty good wellness programs in place. They actually have wellness coaches more around health, but they didn't have kind of the financial wellness piece. That's why they brought me in to kind of supplement that piece.
Okay.
Right? So I think you're seeing companies becoming more aware of the importance of employee wellness to around, and let's be honest, most companies, aren't going to do this out of the goodness of their heart, right? They're going to see they're going to want to see a benefit. Right? So I think they're seeing more and more investing in employees' wellness, whether it's financial or other, is having a benefit around retention, turnover, engagement, those skills that make them more productive, more value added, engaged employees.
So now I know that in your company's name it's consulting and coaching. So is coaching only for individuals and the consulting only for businesses?
Yeah. So the consulting is what I do for the businesses.
Okay.
Right now, when I go out to the businesses and do my consulting, I may end up getting some individual coaching clients.
Okay.
People in those audience that see me and they want to engage me, more of a one-to-one relationship. But the relationship with the company is a consulting relationship.
Okay.
Relationship with the individual is a coaching relationship.
Okay, I understand. So what are some of the questions business owners or individuals should really just begin to ask themselves to help them decide if they are in need of your service?
Well, I think they need to understand their employees and what their employees needs and what they're asking for, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's a tough question to kind of answer. For me, it is employers need to see the value in investing in this type of thing for their employee. Um, the questions, I'm not quite sure what the questions that they would ask of me other than, why it's important, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I talked about kind of the issues around kind of turnover and engagement, those types of things. Having to have a more engaged employee would be a benefit to the company.
Mm-hmm. So I guess that question really just comes around to, if I'm watching this show and I'm just saying, well, my finances are okay, everything is fine. Would I even need to consider your services, at all, or
As an individual,
correct?
um, no, if you felt satisfied with your finances, you probably wouldn't,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, that's probably not my target audience, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the fact is that, again, when I look at, so I guess the question would be, what does satisfy me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, interesting stat. I want to say it's like 60 to 70% of the workforce is living paycheck to paycheck.
Okay.
That tells me there's a pretty big percentage of folks who are not satisfied with their finances.
Okay.
That's stressful, right? And then I think the other interesting stat was that it was either 40 or 60% of the workforce could not cover $1,000 emergency expense,
Okay.
right? And so if you don't have an emergency fund, what happens if something happens? So say you need to get brakes for your car or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to charge it, right? And so now you've created debt, and now it's actually costing you more. And so going back to kind of your original question, if somebody is satisfied with their finances,
Mm-hmm.
and managing it well, and have a plan and goals, they probably don't need it. But the great majority of the folks out there, from what I'm seeing in research
Yeah.
around the habits and behaviors they have.
Yeah, and I think that another piece of this is people have to be realistic. And you really have to humble yourself to say, you know what, I do need help in this area. I can't do this on my own because all of these years that I've been trying is not working.
Yep.
And so you just have to be honest with yourself.
And that's where the power, to me, the power of coaching comes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we haven't really talked about that. So I'm a certified professional coach.
Okay.
Went through several hundred hours of training, and so from my perspective, think about it from somebody who may be trying to do anything. Say they're trying to lose weight. They always try and they always fail, right?
Mm-hmm.
They always try to do a budget. They always try to plan, but they always fail, right? And so for some reason or another, something kind of gets in their way and stops them. That's where the coaching comes in. Coaching is somebody who is focused on you and your agenda and helps you to move forward and holds you accountable.
Mm-hmm.
So I've used coaches for years. I mean, Fidelity, they've had a wellness coach benefit, I want to say for at least 10, 15 years. I've used the coach for 10 years in that space just to keep me moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
I've used an executive coach when I think about career. So when I think about what I do, it's really being able to kind of hold somebody accountable for what they want to achieve and continue to move forward with them, focus on their agenda and their goals. And that's, to me, the power and the beauty of coaching.
I think that's interesting that you that you share that you actually still use a coach. And I think people do not understand the importance of continual learning, as well as just keeping those basics. I know I was reading an article, and it was talking about how I don't remember the name of the quarterback's name, but he still, like maybe quarterly, goes back to his, it's either high school or college coach, just so he can continue those basics and those fundamentals that he received when he was younger. And I think that sometimes we get so comfortable with where we're at, we're like, oh, I don't need that extra help. But I just think it's amazing that you still utilize your coaches, even in your as an expert, you know.
And I think that if I'm thinking of the same one, it was actually Tom Brady.
Yeah, that's who.
Yeah. Yeah. So I happen to live right next door to Foxborough, where the Patriots play. So I know Tom Brady pretty well. Yeah, and it's interesting when you go back and you kind of think about kind of people who are kind of have the highest levels of satisfaction, people who continually try to learn and grow, right, and develop, and so sometimes it's hard to kind of see what you're trying to achieve when in the middle of it. Getting somebody else's perspective, who again has no vested interest, is powerful.
Definitely. So what are some of the things that you expect a company or individual to know before they come to you?
So I don't expect them, right? It depends, right? There's going to be different levels of knowledge. And so from a company, I think I'm just looking for them to kind of be invested in their employee overall wellness. And then I would take it from there. From an individual, I'm going to get people who are kind of in different phases or sections of knowledge, right? So when what I think about what I do is that, there's going to be an assessment phase. There's going to be a goals phase. There's going to be a planning phase. And then there's going to be kind of an execution phase, right? So you may have somebody who comes to me that they've done a budget and they're good with the budget. They just can't execute, right? And so they would need me to kind of help push them through that phase. They may have a plan and goals and just can't execute on that. They may be in a phase where they don't have any kind of real financial knowledge, so they need help with financial tools and basic concepts. I worked with an individual, young woman, recently out of grad school, who we started with the basics, right? She didn't have a great understanding for what was actually coming out of her paycheck on a weekly basis. So that's where we started. And we started, okay, is something coming out for your 401k? Are you paying for health insurance? Are you utilizing your benefits? So when you ask what a person needs to know, I don't think there's anything that they necessarily need to know, but they may be at a different place based upon what they do.
Okay. So what are the benefits of utilizing your services instead of just, going to your local library and, picking up a book and implementing those things?
And I think that goes back to when we talked about, what the power of coaching is, right? So again, there's a lot of resources out there, and there are people who are disciplined and can execute by reading a book and following the program. There are a lot of people out there who can't, and having that person kind of focused on your agenda, somebody you can check in with, somebody that's holding you accountable, can be, again, a powerful tool for moving forward. So, can people go read a book and execute? Some can, a lot can't.
So I know that you do your coaching and your consulting. What are some of the things that individuals and companies would learn from working with you?
So, Mike, what I offer from a company point of view
Mm-hmm.
is it's basically three modules. So we
Okay.
talk about a little bit about the, the importance of budgeting and why it's the first step is kind of understanding what you're spending and where it's going. And then I will talk to them about some tools they can use. I will offer them an Excel spreadsheet that I put together, just kind of talking about the importance of beginning to understand where your money's going on a monthly basis and to have a plan. That's the
Okay.
first step, right? And then the second thing I talk to them, and I bring in some real life examples, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I talk to them about, okay, how many people go to Dunkin' Donuts on a daily basis?
Mm-hmm.
What do you spend there? How much is that a month? How much is that a week? How much is that a year?
Mm-hmm.
And then I talk to them about opportunity costs. So, okay, what if you were taking that $5 a day and investing? What would that be in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years? So trying to kind of get them thinking about little decisions that they're making, thinking about a plan, and thinking about how they want to look at their overall financial picture.
Mm-hmm.
And the next module really focused on credit and debt, right? And so, okay, what is it that makes up your credit score? Why is it important? What implications does that have on your ability to borrow? What you'll actually pay? And then we talk about credit cards, and if you use them wisely, they can do for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't, what they do to you. And then we talk about debt. And this will focus on whatever the company is, a particular example relevant to that company.
Okay.
So the title list I focused on mortgages, that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And then, investing in retirement is the last one, right? So you should think about long-term planning. You should think about the power of compounding. You're not going to get there by putting your money in a 1% money market account, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think about investing? How do you think about long-term growth in accumulation over time? I also talk to folks about their 401k.
Mm-hmm.
Are they maximizing their match there? So if the company's offering you free money, you shouldn't be leaving that on the table.
Mm-hmm.
So for employees of companies, I'm really trying to kind of get them thinking, educate them on making good choices and good decisions around debt, credit and debt, around long-term savings, and around having a plan and a budget.
So for those individuals, are you still using those same subjects?
Yeah, so it's the
Okay.
same. This is the same key concepts, right? And again,
Okay.
with an individual, it would depend upon kind of where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to kind of that prior discussion, what do they need? What are their goals? And one of the key things that I try to part is that there is no one right decision, right?
Okay.
Everybody's different, and depending upon your situation, depending upon what you're trying to accomplish, depending upon your discipline and your habits, there are different choices that may be right for you when it comes to using credit, using debt, planning, long-term savings. Just because your neighbor did something doesn't mean it's right for you.
Right.
Right? So that's the other thing I try to encourage individuals to think about. And really, it depends upon their situation and kind of being true to themselves as to what they can accomplish.
So do you try to change individuals' habits and thoughts about money, or do you just look at where they're at, what they've been doing, and try to show them how it has resulted in what they have now?
So that's where the coaching comes in to
Yeah.
actually help change habits, right? And so
Okay.
as I kind of went through that cycle of the assessment, the goals, the plan, and then the execution piece,
Mm-hmm.
working with the client on that execution piece is where the behaviors are going to come out, right? That's where it's going to say they're either executing or not. That's where we work on the behaviors and the attitudes, right, towards money. So, okay, what is stopping you from executing on this plan? So what is it that, and it could be growing up that they felt that, hey, money was something that I really, didn't have a good relationship with, shouldn't really have. It's just there, people's relationship with money can be strange, right? Mm-hmm. Trying to kind of get over that and have them think differently about it. It's okay to have money, right? It's okay to be successful. Mm-hmm. Those may be some of the issues as well.
So how do you, I guess, put a person at ease with being open and honest with you about money? Because that is a very touchy subject a lot of times, especially going into a relationship with somebody that you don't know.
Yeah, no, there has to be trust there, right? And so that's part of the initial discussion that we would have is kind of what the relationship would look like, mm-hmm. and what to expect. And there is an agreement, a coaching agreement, that talks about kind of confidentiality, and so yeah, you have to build that trust, and it can be hard, but mm-hmm. I think for the most part, I haven't had really kind of any issues there. Mm-hmm. I tend to be somewhat of a quiet, introverted type of person.
Okay.
And so, it is key to building that trust is key to a successful coaching relationship. Mm-hmm. And that is kind of one of the first things that you try to build is that rapport and that trust with that.
Definitely. Guys, if you're just now tuning in, I actually have Dan Persechini. He is actually a financial wellness expert. So go ahead and share this video now. Make sure that you also visit the description box because all of Dan's contact information is in there. This is a new year, y'all. Get your money right with Dan, and he can help you. And we're going to talk a little bit more about his free discovery session that he offers to you. But if you have any questions or comments, make sure that you put that in the comment field so we can get to those. If your company already has a CFO, and how would they really utilize a service like yours?
Yeah, so the difference for me would be a CFO is looking at the finances of the company. Mm-hmm. I'm really kind of focused on the finances of the individuals who work for the company. Mm-hmm. So the CFO is not going to be, he may be interested in some of the outcomes and the benefits of a program I may put in. He's not going to look to kind of implement. It goes back to the question, I think, the trust question you had, right? So if your CFO is looking to help you with your finances, mm-hmm. He's got a vested interest in, he's your CFO, maybe your boss. How is he kind of an independent, unvested source in helping you with your financial picture? I'm not quite sure if that's the question you were asking, is to kind of what's the difference between what a CFO would do for services versus what I would do. But again, to me, the main point is that the CFO is going to be focused on the company's finances and making mm-hmm. sure the company's balance sheet, expenses, and profitability are going well, where I'm really kind of focused on the individual in that company and making sure that they're feeling comfortable about their finances.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You answered the question very well. So this next question, so what is your hourly rate?
It's $150 an hour. Mm-hmm. And I do offer a complimentary session. And again, the complimentary session is just being able to kind of see if we're a good fit, to talk about the relationship, to understand what I actually will bring and offer and what the client should expect as part of that relationship as well. Yeah.
So how do you help a person feel confident and comfortable with your services if they are living paycheck to paycheck? Because if I have to, is it the whole concept of you you have to spend money to make money? Is that the concept it is?
It is. It's a little bit, and so it is. It is hard, right? So if you've got people who are struggling paycheck to paycheck, and able to kind of hire a coach to help them can be a difficult decision. But I would say that one, to be successful, you want to invest in yourself. And this is an investment in yourself and helping you to kind of be successful going forward, and it should have a return on it eventually. Right. So yeah, maybe you need to spend some money to be in a better place financially long term. But if you can feel better about your finances, develop some good habits, start to put some money away, the value is there for what I put on.
Yeah, and this is not to say that these are actually the numbers that you save or anything, but I guess another thing that I just thought about was, if you can teach me how to save $500 a month, and I'm using you, let's just say that I only needed you for an hour, and I spend that 150, then I receive that 350. So it is of a benefit to me because I'm learning how to save so much more than I did before I utilized your service.
Yep.
So I think
Yep.
that's good. Can you tell us a little bit about your some of your success stories that you've had?
So I do have a couple of clients that I've worked with, a couple of younger clients that I talked about. Both of them, at the end of the day, came up with kind of a plan and a budget and feeling more comfortable with their overall finance picture after working with them. There are a couple of clients that I'm working with right now that are kind of in a different space, and one of them came to me with, really wanted a financial coach, but she's also starting a business of her own.
Okay.
And so we started coaching. It was more around her attitude. So, okay, how do I think about am I worth, do I have a story around my business? Am I worth what I'm trying to charge? So there was some self-value there as well. And I think we're working through that. We're making some great progress there. Corporate side, we do get formal feedback after every session. So the way I measure success there is on the feedback that we get. The feedback has been tremendous. So I've had, I think, 10, 12 sessions so far at Titleist, and I've got maybe 10 more coming, and they keep bringing me back. So it's, I would measure kind of my success that way, and from the feedback. I get a lot of good feedback from some of the work I've done with the high school.
That's good. That's good. And can you just remind individuals that's watching the show right now, what are your end goals with the clients that you work with?
So, and the end goal is to have a company feel better about a company or individual, mostly individuals. So even companies, it's the individuals to focus, feel better about their financial picture and their financial situation, and to feel less stressed about their finances. Right? So people who have a plan and can execute on that plan are in a much better place, and that's where I want to get.
Thank you so much. So Dan, I do want to thank you again for being on the show, Business Spotlight with Martinique. Thank you for sharing just your knowledge and a little bit more about who you are as an individual, the companies and clients that you've worked with as well. Guys, thank you so much for taking time to tune into the show. Make sure that you visit Dan's his Facebook page, as well as go to his contact information. If this is a service that you really feel that you could utilize in your own life, make sure that you get in contact with Dan. Dan, thank you again for being on the show.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure. So for 2019, everybody out there, resolve to be financially fit.
That's good. That's good. Guys, I will talk to you all later and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.
Bye.